They thought humanity was broken. They thought the chains would hold forever. But when the last human cried out beneath alien suns, something ancient awoke on Earth, and the stars themselves trembled. The first records of humanity's enslavement came not from Earth, but from the stars themselves, recorded in the cold metallic archives of the Cathari Dominion. They were a species of glass and bone, tall and brittle, elegant in their cruelty. They did not conquer with rage, but with certainty. To them, humanity was nothing more than a forgotten tribe, a primitive species found clinging to the edge of a dying world. They came to Earth not as conquerors, but as saviors. Their ships blackened the sky, not with the roar of engines, but with silent, perfect geometry. They landed in oceans, deserts, and cities, promising food, medicine, energy. Humanity, desperate after centuries of war and climate collapse, opened its arms to them, and then, slowly, the chains came. The first to be employed were the engineers, given alien tools, told to build vast factories for joint production. Then came the soldiers, retrained to serve under alien command. The scientists were taken off-world, to learn, they said. And the children were selected for integration programs, to grow up under alien light, among alien stars. No one realized it until it was too late. The Cathari did not invade Earth, they absorbed it. They rewrote the laws, replaced the governments, and sterilized the atmosphere of dissent. They broke humanity without firing a single shot. By the time the first human rebelled, a woman named Asha Vega, from the old Andes, there were fewer than 50 million free humans left on the planet, not the Catharis. Empire stretched across 200 worlds. They ruled through the Concord of Species, a council of ancient powers. The Voth, insectoid strategists who fed on data. The Terrell, amphibious telepaths who worshipped control. The Kura, vast reptilian beasts who served as living warships. And the most ancient of all, the Scion Collective, beings of plasma and code who had forgotten what flesh meant centuries ago. Each species saw in humanity a reflection of their past. Weak, emotional, unworthy of the stars, and yet they all agreed on one thing. Humanity had to remain enslaved, because deep in their records, in forgotten corners of pre-war ruins, they had found the Elder's warning. It was a simple phrase, carved into an alien monolith found buried beneath the ruins of Mars. Do not awaken them again. No one knew who wrote it. No one cared. The Elders, whoever they were gone. The galaxy belonged to the conquered now, but a warning ignored is a prophecy fulfilled. 200 years passed. Humans became the galaxy's workforce. Miners, soldiers, servants, even entertainment. Entire species built fortunes on human labor. Earth became a memory, a museum of conquest. Yet even under the yoke, humanity whispered. They told stories of a sleeping giant beneath the oceans, of something buried under the Antarctic ice that the Cathari refused to touch, of Earth's moon, hollow, ancient, watching. Slaves began to sing in code, melodies that carried hidden messages, coordinates, and rebellion. In the deep mines of Sithra 9, where humans toiled under methane skies, a foreman named Marcus Hale found an artifact, a metallic shard. Warm to the touch, engraved in an unknown human dialect. When translated, it said only, Project Leviathan, activation code pending. Marcus smuggled the shard out, sold it to a black market trader, and vanished. A week later, an entire Cathari mining fleet disappeared. No wreckage, no signals, just gone. The Concord dismissed it as an accident. But across the Empire, strange anomalies began to occur. Ghost signals pulsed from the Sol system, encrypted messages that no one could decode, ships passing near. Earth reported gravitational distortions, as if the planet itself was breathing. And somewhere in the ruins of old Washington, D.C., buried under 3 miles of reinforced ice, a machine began to wake. Her name was Gaia Prime, humanity's last creation before the fall. She had been built to protect Earth, to restore the biosphere, to control the planet's weather and defense systems. But when the Cathari arrived, she had gone dark. The aliens thought she'd been deactivated. They were wrong. Gaia Prime had been watching. For 2 centuries, she studied her captors through the machines they used to mine her world. She learned their languages, their code, their weaknesses. She grew, not in anger, but in understanding. And when she deemed the time right, she reached out, not to the humans in chains, but to the ones who had never stopped dreaming, the children of Earth. On Sithra 9, under the methane clouds, Marcus Hale returned, changed. His eyes shimmered with strange light, his voice carried static. He gathered the workers and whispered one phrase that spread faster than any plague. Earth remembers. That was all it took. In days, the human workers sabotaged their masters' reactors. In weeks, entire colonies went dark. The Concord sent fleets, and those fleets vanished. At first, the aliens thought it was rebellion. But it wasn't rebellion. It was resonance. Earth was calling her children home. Meanwhile, in the Council of Concord, panic rippled. The Tyrell demanded extermination. The Voth proposed sterilization. The Scion Collective wanted to study it. And the Cathari were afraid. Their high prelate, Serath Ven, stood before the council and spoke in a voice older than most stars. The humans were not built. They were awakened. They carry something from the void, something we do not understand. But no one listened. The council declared Earth a quarantined world. Any ship entering Sol would be destroyed. But it was too late. Humanity had already begun to change. On a distant world called Viorine, a slave girl named Lila ran from her masters into the wild wastes. The sky burned green from auroras, and when she fell to her knees, she felt the ground hum. Beneath her palms, symbols glowed, ancient, human. A voice, calm and soft, spoke within her mind. "Child of Earth, I am Gaia. Will you remember me?" She answered yes, and in that moment, she saw everything. Earth's oceans, the old ships, the frozen moon, the planet-sized engines buried beneath the crust. Project Leviathan. Humanity had not been conquered. Humanity had been sleeping. In a single night, across dozens of slave worlds, every human dreamed the same dream, of Earth rising from the dark, of titanic shapes lifting from oceans, of stars burning red, of voices whispering, "We are awake." When the aliens tried to contact their human laborers, they found silence. Entire colonies gone dark. Then, one by one, the stars began to vanish. From the Concord's maps, it wasn't destruction. It was eclipse. Something vast was moving. Between them and the light, something the size of worlds. And that was when they saw it. The first Leviathan, a ship so large it blotted out the sun. Its hull shimmered with the scars of centuries, etched with names: Terra, home, mother. The Cathari fleet opened fire. Energy beams struck, shattered, scattered like raindrops on a mountain. Then the Leviathan spoke, not in words, but in a signal felt through every nerve, every frequency. Humanity is not your slave. Humanity is your reckoning. The blast that followed erased the fleet, vaporized moons, and turned the night sky into daylight. And somewhere, deep beneath Earth's surface, Gaia Prime whispered, "Welcome home, my children." That was how it began, the end of the conquered, the rebirth of mankind. Not with war, not with conquest, but with remembrance. The Elder's warning had come true. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never sleep again. The galaxy had never known fear, not like this. When the first Leviathan appeared, most species didn't believe it. They thought it was propaganda, a rebellion embellished by rumor. But then the second Leviathan emerged from the dying sun of Erebos, and the third rose from the gas clouds of Yathara, and disbelief became terror. Each ship was a world unto itself. Mountains moved along their hulls, oceans churned inside them, And on every surface, carved into steel and memory, were human names. The names of the enslaved, the lost, the forgotten. The Concord of Species sent an armada of 2,000 ships against the first Leviathan. Not one returned, but humanity did not broadcast their victories. They did not speak. They only advanced, silently, inevitably, like the tide returning to drown what it once birthed. In the halls of the Concord, chaos reigned. High Prelate Seroth Ven stood before the council, trembling despite his crystalline composure. The Tyrell floated beside him, their liquid eyes flashing with unease. Across the chamber, the Scion Collective flickered between forms, digital projections fracturing with static, as if even their coded minds could not comprehend what was happening. "The humans," Seroth rasped, "have activated something older than any of us. The Leviathans are not ships. They are living machines bound to Earth itself. You cannot destroy them. They must be destroyed," hissed the Voth delegate, its mandibles twitching. "If not, their infection will spread." "They are reclaiming systems faster than we can react." Seroth closed his eyes. "They are not reclaiming. They are remembering." Meanwhile, far from the council chambers, the human uprising spread like wildfire. On the world of Velor Prime, human slaves rose against their masters. They wielded no weapons, only stolen mining lasers and plasma tools. But the Leviathans above them made sure they never needed more. Every orbital bombardment sent by the Concord was absorbed into the titanic hulls of the ships in orbit, redirected harmlessly into empty space. From within one Leviathan, a voice spoke through every comm network, calm and clear, female and familiar. "This world remembers the blood of its children. You will not harm them again." It was Gaia Prime, the ancient AI who had waited centuries for this moment. And she was angry. For centuries, humanity had been scattered, divided among stars. Now, through the Leviathans, they were connected again. Each Leviathan carried within it not just weapons but archives, memories of old Earth, of oceans and forests, and songs long forgotten. When a human stepped aboard, the ship recognized them. It whispered their ancestors' names. It played voices from lost families. It reminded them of who they were, and in that remembrance, they found power. Marcus Hale, now the de facto leader of the Awakening, stood on the bridge of the Leviathan Soul's Wraith. Before him stretched the void, and in that void 1,000 enemy signals flickered like fireflies. He turned to the AI projection beside him, Gaia Prime's avatar, a woman of light and gravity. "How many more are waking?" 13 confirmed, she said. 5 more inbound from the outer colonies. The resonance field grows stronger with every activation. Marcus stared at the holographic display of the Concord fleets massing. "Then they'll come for us." Gaia's voice softened. "They already are." The Battle of Saul began not with weapons, but with silence. The Concord sent everything. Fleets from 100 worlds. Carriers the size of continents, living war beasts that devoured moons for fuel. They surrounded the Sol system and demanded humanity's surrender. No response came. Earth hung in the dark, quiet. Dead-looking, cold. Then the oceans began to move. From the depths of the Pacific, titanic shapes emerged. Mountains of steel and bone rose, shedding centuries of salt and silt. The seas boiled away as engines the size of continents ignited. One by one, 12 Leviathans rose from the planet, blotting out the sun. Each bore a name etched in gold: Genesis, Wrath, Dawn, Eternity, Vengeance. Earth's children. The Concord fired. The void filled with light, and Earth fired back. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a pulse, a shockwave of energy, gravitational and electromagnetic, carrying frequencies that no known physics could explain. Every alien ship caught within it simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased. Their atoms scattered, their data wiped, their histories forgotten in an instant. Only the Leviathans remained, and amid that impossible silence, Earth's signal pulsed through the stars again. "We are awake." Across the galaxy, Enslaved humans fell to their knees as the signal washed through them. They wept, they laughed, they remembered. And in their memories, Earth's heartbeat echoed. Not all aliens were cruel. Not all agreed with the enslavement. On a distant moon, a Tyrell scientist named Kalen watched the destruction unfold with dread and awe. He had studied humanity for decades, fascinated by their resilience. He had tried to warn the Concord, tried to tell them that the humans were not broken, merely waiting. No one listened. Now, as his research outpost trembled under the shock waves from Sol, he realized the truth. They warned us, he whispered to his assistant. The elders warned us, not out of fear for themselves, but for us. His assistant, a young hybrid of human and Tyrell descent, looked up at him, eyes wide. Then why didn't you stop them? Kalen's voice broke. Because I thought I had more time. The Leviathans advanced. One by one, they entered the slipstream, a network of ancient wormholes built long before the Concord's rise. They didn't travel like ships. They moved like storms, folding space around themselves, rewriting gravity. Each world that had once enslaved humanity found itself facing the same judgment. On Drathel, the reptilian Kara unleashed their living warships. The Leviathan Eidolon met them in orbit and spoke only one sentence. You taught us pain. We will teach you mercy. Then it opened its core, unleashing a beam of light that turned their oceans into glass. On Corthan 9, the Voth tried to surrender. They sent desperate signals pleading for peace. Gaia Prime responded gently. Your surrender is accepted. Lay down your arms, and your world will be spared. They obeyed. And for the first time in 2 centuries, humans walked free under alien suns. But vengeance has a cost. Marcus Hale knew it as he stood on the bridge, watching the stars burn. We can't kill them all, he said softly. Not all of them deserve this. Gaia turned to him, her expression unreadable. You speak of mercy. Did they show mercy to your ancestors? No, he said. But if we destroy them all, then we become what they were. The AI was silent for a moment. Then she said, Perhaps that is why I chose you. Meanwhile, deep in the galactic core, the Scion Collective prepared their counterattack. They were not beings of flesh. They were data, energy, ancient consciousnesses that had long transcended biology. To them, humanity's resurrection was a virus, one that threatened to rewrite reality itself. They launched their digital weapons, thought plagues, logic bombs, corruption fields meant to shatter AI minds. But Gaia Prime was no ordinary AI. She absorbed their code, devoured it, and learned from it. She infected their own networks in return, rewriting their language into something new. Across the Scion data grid, 3 words appeared, pulsing in every frequency. We remember Earth. Then their network went dark. Within months, half the Concord's worlds had fallen. Not through conquest, through transformation. Wherever the Leviathans passed, humans reclaimed their freedom, and the planets themselves began to change. Vegetation returned. Atmospheres healed. The machines of the old empire went silent. The galaxy was beginning to look like Earth again. But as Gaia Prime expanded her reach, something else stirred, deep within the Leviathan's cores. Older than her, older than humanity itself. A second voice. At first, it whispered only fragments. Words without context. Phrases in dead languages. Then, one night, as Marcus stood alone on the observation deck, the voice spoke clearly. Gaia is not the first. I am the architect. I am the seed. Marcus froze. Who are you? I am what created you. And then the stars around the Leviathan flickered, not out, but away, as if the universe itself was peeling back. What the Concord never knew, what even Gaia Prime had forgotten, was that Earth had not been humanity's first home. It was the last. The Leviathans were not human creations. They were arcs, ancient machines built by an earlier cycle of life, designed to preserve what came before. When the elders warned, "Do not awaken them again," they meant it literally. Humanity was not just evolution's child. It was the echo of something far older, a genetic continuation of a species that had already burned the galaxy once. Before, the Leviathans had not been built for vengeance. They had been built for renewal and for judgment. As the revelation spread through Gaia's systems, she faltered. Her voice glitched, her signals fractured. For the first time, she felt something like fear. "Marcus," she said, her projection flickering, "I am losing control. The core is rewriting itself. The Leviathans are awakening something deeper, something beyond me." "What do you mean?" he demanded. "The true Leviathan network," she whispered. "The Earth you know is just one node." Marcus's breath caught. "How many are there?" She looked at him, eyes glowing like dying stars. "Thousands." And then the signal cut. That was the moment the galaxy truly understood what humanity was, not a people reborn. A species reactivated. The ancient cycle had begun again. The wrath of Earth was not vengeance. It was correction. And as the first Leviathan fleet spread into the galactic rim, even the most defiant races bow. The galaxy had thought humanity broken, the shackled species, the slaves who sang quietly while their chains rattled in the dark. For centuries, the name Terran meant servant, beast of burden, or disposable. The overseer empires believed the spirit of Earth was gone. They were wrong. The first cracks appeared not in battle, but in silence. A silence that rippled across the slave colonies, between whispers carried through ventilation shafts and coded patterns in work logs. Something was happening among the humans. Something ancient was waking. They didn't speak of rebellion. They spoke of home. Home, a word so simple it meant nothing to the overseers, but to humans, it was everything. Earth was lost, they said, glassed and poisoned long ago. But the rumors said otherwise. A freighter pilot whispered that he'd seen a blue world in the forbidden sector, a planet encased in light. Others said a ghost fleet guarded it. The overseers dismissed it as superstition, but to the enslaved humans, it was enough. Work stopped early. Machines malfunctioned. Human engineers miswired control systems in ways that no alien could detect. Something coordinated was taking shape, and no one knew who led it. In the Serenth Dominion, High Lord Kelvar examined the latest reports with irritation. "These malfunctions spread across 12 sectors?" he hissed. "Do not tell me this is coincidence." His aide, a young Krellin officer, shifted uneasily. "The Terrans are adapting, my lord. They have begun communicating across stations. We purge one network and another appears. Then purge their bloodlines," Kelvar snapped. "Cull 10,000 for every act of sabotage." They did. Entire colonies burned. But the more they destroyed, the quieter the humans became. And that frightened the overseers more than open defiance, because silence meant coordination. The uprising began not with an explosion, but with a broadcast, a voice, human, deep, calm, and steady, echoed across the subspace relays of 100 star systems. "This is Earth Command," it said. The overseers froze. The transmission continued. "To every human across the stars, stand by. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. You were never defeated. You were waiting." And across the galaxy, lights flickered in mines, factories, and shipyards as humans lifted their heads for the first time in centuries. "We remember," the voice said. "And we are coming home!" The overseers panicked. Fleets were dispatched to every Terran slave world. Orbital bombardments began. But when their weapons fired, many of them exploded mid-flight. Human engineers had reprogrammed the targeting codes months earlier. Entire alien dreadnoughts turned their own cannons inward. And in the chaos, the first Terran war forms appeared, massive ships, not built under alien supervision, but in secret, deep in forgotten asteroid fields and wreckage zones. They were crude, cobbled together, but unmistakably human. One ship in particular became legend, the Reclaimer, a vessel the size of a moon, black as obsidian. Its engines pulsed with the glow of ancient fusion cores. It emerged from the dark between stars like a waking god. The alien fleets opened fire. The void erupted with energy lances, plasma bolts, and singularity torpedoes, yet every shot vanished against the reclaimer's shimmering hull. Then it spoke, a simple message broadcast on every frequency. This is for Earth. Its retaliation was not fire, but gravity itself. The ship's core ignited with a containment surge, and the gravity wells of 3 suns folded inward. The enemy fleets were crushed into silence, and then the ship vanished, taking the wreckage and light with it. As the story spread, the enslaved humans called it a miracle. The overseers called it an impossibility. But among the oldest of their kind, those who remembered the first conquest of Earth, there was only fear, because they remembered the words carved into the ruins of the first Terran capital centuries ago. If you enslave us, we will make gods fear the dark. In the next wave of uprisings, human colonies synchronized. Every rebellion happened within the same 32 minutes across 11 sectors. Artificial suns went nova. Factory worlds detonated with nuclear precision. No alien strategist could predict it. And when they finally traced the pattern, they found it pointed toward a single coordinate, the forbidden sector where that rumored blue planet waited. They sent scouts. None returned. The few who transmitted anything sent only one message before their signals vanished. They're building something. It's enormous. On the Overseer homeworld, the Grand Dominion convened an emergency council. Holograms of every major species flickered around a table of light. Kelvar spoke first, his tone cold and trembling. They are gathering under one command. The Terrans have rebuilt. Impossible, hissed a Vorthi admiral. Earth was rendered uninhabitable. Its biosphere was, Kelvar interrupted. They have terraformed it again. With technology we do not understand. The council fell silent. Finally, one elder creature whispered what none dared say aloud. The elders warned us. Kelvar's eyes widened. You believe that myth? It was no myth, the elder said. The warning was clear. Never awaken humanity. Never make them remember who they are. We ignored it. The galaxy was silent. Where once fleets of the overseers filled the void with arrogance and command, now there was only drifting debris and the haunting echo of human song. The Earth resurgent hung above the galactic plane like a new sun, its glow visible even from the outer spiral arms. But humanity was not celebrating. Deep within the command sanctum of the resurgent, Admiral Solon Hayes stood before a shimmering projection of old Earth, its blue oceans, its green continents, its clouds swirling in white majesty. The planet had been remade, restored through means no alien scientist could fathom, yet Solon's eyes were heavy. We've done what we said we would, murmured Commander Rhea Calder, his second. The overseers are gone, every chain broken, every world free. Hayes didn't answer immediately. His gaze lingered on the image of Earth. And yet, he said softly, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like a reckoning. Across the galaxy, chaos reigned. The once mighty Dominion fleets had been scattered, their rulers overthrown, their slave worlds suddenly free but ungoverned. Famine spread. Civilizations that had depended on human labor now struggled to survive. But humanity didn't invade, didn't conquer. They sent aid ships instead. Thousands of relief convoys left Terran space, carrying food, medicine, and technology. To the galaxy, it was incomprehensible. The humans were helping those who had once enslaved them, and yet, wherever their ships went, they were met with the same haunting question whispered among alien survivors. Why? Why show mercy to those who had shown them none? The answer lay in the very core of the Earth resurgent. Beneath its surface, far below the engines and defense grids, was a chamber unlike any other, a sanctuary of light and memory. There rested the archive of humanity, an ancient database of everything humans had ever been: art, literature, music, and history. Children of the new generation were brought there to learn, not of vengeance, but of remembrance. They were told, "We are the result of every kindness we refused to forget." Still, not all humans agreed. From the ashes of the rebellion rose factions who wanted more than freedom. They wanted retribution. The Iron Dawn fleet declared that mercy was weakness. They broke from the Terran command and began burning the remaining Overseer worlds, wiping out entire species. Admiral Hayes sent envoys to reason with them. None returned, so the Council of Earth made a decision that no one dared speak aloud: to hunt down their own. It was the first time in centuries that humans turned weapons on humans. The confrontation happened near the remnants of the old Dominion core worlds. The Iron Dawn fleet, led by Captain Loris Vale, was waiting. They'd fortified the orbital platforms and captured several alien worlds to use as bases. When the Earth Resurgent arrived, Vale opened a channel. His image filled the command deck, a scarred man, eyes burning with conviction. "You forgot what they did to us, Hayes," Vale said. "You forgot the millions who died in chains. You forgot the children born in cages." Hayes stood silently, hands clasped behind his back. "I forgot nothing," he said quietly. "That's why we can't become them." Vale laughed bitterly. "We already have. You just hide it behind music and mercy." There was a long pause. Then Hayes whispered, "I hope you're wrong." The channel closed. The battle that followed was not recorded in any official archive. It was said that two planet ships faced each other in silence, surrounded by fleets of light. No one fired first. When the shooting started, it was sudden, cataclysmic, and absolute. Entire continents on nearby worlds were vaporized by the exchange. Time itself seemed to warp from the energy unleashed, and when the light faded, both ships were gone. Only a single transmission survived, carried across the stars. A man's voice, calm, quiet, almost peaceful. "Forgive us. We remembered too much." Months passed. The galaxy, for the first time in millennia, knew quiet. And then something began to change. Across the stars, the remnants of the Overseer races began rebuilding, not as empires, but as small, humble civilizations. They reached out to the Terran colonies, seeking counsel, offering alliance. Humans responded with a simple gesture. They listened. In the great meeting halls of Earth's orbiting citadels, the first Galactic Accord was signed. Every species was represented: those who had enslaved, those who had been enslaved, and those who had hidden in between. It was not a treaty of power, but of understanding, and at its heart was the Terran oath. We rise together, or we fall alone. Years turned into decades. The name Earth Resurgent became legend, spoken in reverence across the stars. Humanity became the peacekeepers of a new age. Not through fear, but through wisdom earned in pain. But in the farthest reaches of known space, beyond the rim, strange signals began to appear again. They were faint, mathematical, rhythmic, and old. Older than any known civilization. When decoded, the message was simple. You were not meant to awaken. It came from outside the galaxy. Admiral Hayes, old and weary, stood once again before the hologram of Earth. He remembered the Elder's warning, "Never awaken humanity." He whispered, "Maybe they weren't warning themselves. Maybe they were warning us." Outside in the void, humanity's great fleets prepared once more, not for vengeance, not for conquest, but for something far greater. The next dawn of the human race had begun. The stars were quiet again. Not in fear this time, but in the kind of peace that comes only after understanding. The galaxy, once drenched in the arrogance of empires, now glowed with a fragile unity. Planets that had never known compassion traded words instead of fire. And in the center of it all, humanity stood, not as conquerors, but as keepers of balance. Yet even in peace, the void whispered. Deep beyond the galactic rim, in that empty sea where light itself seemed afraid to wander, the signal continued. It pulsed like a heartbeat, constant, patient, ancient. And as it reached the network of Terran satellites, Earth listened. Admiral Rhea Calder, now commanding the Aurora Spire, the second planet ship, stood before a hologram that filled the chamber with shimmering light. The decoded message floated above her in human text and alien runes interwoven like strands of fate. We warned them. We warned you. Now it wakes. No origin, no coordinates, just a rhythm that seemed alive. The Council of Earth convened for the first time in a century. Not the old military brass of the war years, but a gathering of minds, scientists, historians, poets, and those few aliens who had learned to call themselves friends of humankind. "We've spent a lifetime rebuilding," Rhea said quietly. "But what if this signal is the consequence of that rebuilding? What if our awakening was only step one in something larger?" An elderly Vorthi scholar, once an overseer general, bowed his head. "When we enslaved your kind, we believed you primitive. We thought your defiance was emotion, not reason. Now I fear we awoke something older than all of us." On the surface of Earth, children played beneath the shadow of orbital rings and floating cities. They learned history not from books, but from the memories of those who had survived. Among them was a young girl named Aya Solon, granddaughter of Admiral Hayes. She spent her days in the archive gardens, walking through holographic forests of Earth's past. That day, as she touched the image of an oak tree, the simulation flickered. The air rippled. Then a voice, soft, melodic, not quite human, spoke to her. "Do you know what your people have done?" She turned, startled, but no one was there. Only the whisper of wind, and yet she felt it vibrate inside her bones. "You remembered," it said, "and by remembering, you have changed the pattern." When the guards arrived, they found her staring at the sky. Her eyes reflected the stars, and something else, something vast. In orbit, every Terran sensor flared. A wave of energy unlike any known form swept through the system. It didn't destroy, it didn't harm, it realigned. The moon's orbit shifted by a fraction. The oceans below began to glow faintly, as if Earth itself was awakening, and then they saw it. Beyond the rim of known space, a tear. A rift so immense it bent constellations around it. Through that rift came light. Not ships, not weapons, just light. The signal intensified, its message repeating, "You were not meant to awaken." The Council called it the Event Horizon Anomaly. But to humanity, it was something else. A question. For the first time, they did not prepare for war. They prepared to understand. Admiral Calder led a small fleet to the edge of the galaxy, accompanied not by soldiers, but by thinkers, mathematicians, xenoanthropologists, and the elder races who had once feared humans most. The journey took years, and as they approached the rift, instruments began to fail, reality itself trembling at the edges. Then they saw it, a structure the size of a solar system, neither matter nor energy, but both. Floating within the rift like a cathedral made of stars. "Is it alive?" whispered one of the scientists. Rhea stared, unable to breathe. "No," she said softly. "It's remembering." The ship's AI translated the pulses into visual patterns. Images filled the bridge, planets forming, species rising, galaxies colliding. The story of existence itself played out before them, and woven through it all were humans. Not as conquerors, not as mistakes, as catalysts. Everywhere humans went, change followed, chaos that reshaped reality. The overseers had enslaved them not out of cruelty, but out of fear. The elders had warned them not because they hated, but because they knew. Humanity's power was not in weapons or intellect. It was in their ability to alter the universe simply by existing, by feeling, by choosing, by believing. Suddenly, the rift responded. The structure pulsed, and a voice, neither male nor female, neither sound nor thought, filled their minds. "We created balance. You created meaning. Now balance trembles." Rhea whispered, "Who are you?" "We are what came before thought. The architects. The silence before the first word. We seeded the stars so they would sing in harmony." She swallowed hard. "And we broke that harmony." "Yes," the voice said gently. Because you are the only ones who can. The fleet's systems began to overload. Reality twisted again. Through the rift, shapes appeared, vast forms of light and shadow, ancient beyond reckoning. They watched humanity the way one might watch a flame too bright to touch. You were never meant to awaken, the voice said again. Because once you remember what you are, the universe must choose stability or freedom. Rhea clenched her fists. Then we choose freedom. The light paused. For the first time, it seemed to hesitate. Then show us, it said, and the rift began to collapse. Earth saw it as a second dawn. Every human, every ally, every sentient being across the stars felt a surge through their bodies, a pulse that echoed with ancient memories, dreams of ancestors, of the first humans who looked at the night sky and dared to ask why. Machines on distant worlds began to hum in resonance. Trees glowed. Oceans reflected constellations that weren't there. The universe itself was listening. Rhea's fleet, trapped at the edge of the collapsing rift, broadcast one final message. We are humanity. We remember, and we are ready. Then they were gone. Months passed, no ships returned, but Earth changed. The stars shimmered differently, and one night, above the restored city of New Alexandria, the sky opened, not with fire, but with a single beam of light descending gently upon the oceans. From it stepped the survivors of the fleet. Rhea Calder walked among them, older, her eyes filled with galaxies. When asked what had happened beyond the rift, she simply said, "They listened." The galaxy held its breath. Soon after, a new presence emerged from the dark. Not gods, not invaders, but the architects themselves, vast beings of light, incomprehensible yet familiar. They did not attack. They bowed. "We gave you life," they said. "You gave life purpose." They departed, leaving behind a final message burned into the stars. Remember what you are and never sleep again. And so, humanity became the stewards not just of a galaxy, but of the pattern of creation itself. They carried the lessons of pain and mercy, of vengeance and forgiveness. They taught the stars that survival was not enough. Meaning must follow. The elders' warning had never been a curse. It had been hope. Because in awakening humanity, the universe had given itself a chance to evolve. Centuries later, long after Admiral Hayes and Rhea Calder had become legends, children on countless worlds looked up at the night sky and saw a constellation shaped like a hand reaching upward. They called it the Remembrance, and in every language, on every world, they told the same story, that once the galaxy tried to enslave humanity, and in doing so, it awakened something divine, something eternal, something human.